Swapna, do you want to take it away?
For sure. Let's start.
Okay.
Okay. So here everyone, I can see we have a couple of design and UX folks in here. So I hope this presentation, this talk is going to be helpful in some capacity to you when you do have conversations with your product partners or your or other companies who you're partnering up with as a designer or as a UX strategist or a UX researcher. So I'm Swapna, and let me just take control of the screen. Okay, so I'm Swapna, and I'm going to talk about product partnerships, the why, the what, and the how. How can you navigate product partnerships successfully, whether they are internal customers or external vendors or external companies, external partnerships that your product deals with every now and then. So over the last many years, I've had the privilege of working with internal teams as well as external teams. More recently, the partnership has been with internal product teams at a company level where I drive enterprise search for our employees as customer zero, right? So as an internal customer in Microsoft, I help drive and I help enable enterprise search and now chat experiences on different endpoints across Microsoft. And in this role, we have to partner up and engage different product teams within the organization, be it the Bing search, Team search, Outlook search, or SharePoint search. So we partner up with different product teams cross-functionally across org to deliver some exceptional product experiences or search experiences in this case. And immediately before this, I drove an OEM engagement with our cloud storage consumer product called OneDrive. And we wanted to, in this partnership, it was an external company, Samsung, and our primary goal was to drive synergy in a market sweet spot that we had identified, and then we wanted to, or we are developing this holistic ecosystem for our users. And in my previous career in a bank in the fintech environment was my role was to understand industry trends and industry trends in the fintech market and partner up with new and upcoming businesses as well as with fintech startups to inject some much needed innovation into the banking ecosystem. And prior to that, I worked at a small startup as a head of product where my primary goal was to partner with this market research company who also ended up investing in us eventually. So I've had some experience with product partnerships, both internally and externally, and I hope to deliver some insights which you can use in your own conversations with your partners. So before we dive into the nitty-gritties of building a successful partnership model with another company or with internal stakeholders, internal teams, or external vendors, you need to craft out the steps you might undertake at a holistic level, right? Like at a very high level, what do you need to do in order to get into a partnership, for example? So this is a very staged, it's a staged process where you go through four stages or four phases in a partnership. The first one is partnership analysis, validation, go, no go decision, where you're deciding whether to move forward with the partnership or no. Second one is designing the operating model, where you're aligning on the working model of the partnership if you do decide to go ahead with that particular partner. Third one is incubating the partnership, where you're implementing or incubating, as the term suggests, implementing the partnership or executing on the partnership and measuring success in the process. And the fourth one is identifying next new bets or enhancing the working model, where you're taking the partnership to the next level through new opportunities and or enhancing the partnership dynamics. So let's get into the first phase, right, or the first stage. So in this phase, I have again divided it into a number of different steps. The first step is deciding whether to build, buy, or partner, right? You need to identify a need or a pain point in your organization or in your, let's say, product that your team doesn't have expertise in. So if you know that you don't have, your team does not have expertise in building something, or building a feature, or building a particular product, or building a certain or solving a certain pain point of a user, you need to decide whether you want to build yourself. In this case, when you decide to build yourself, you need to create an expertise from scratch for that, to help with that, to help solve that challenge, or you're buying an outfit or a company which can help you get that solution out of the box. Or the third option is you're partnering up with a company or a team which has similar synergies with you, and you can leverage their expertise to build on top of your product, right? And you can decide to go with a combination of these these three options. You can decide to build as well as partner, or buy and build, or a whole lot of permutations and combinations along those lines. So in this case, you want to think about a couple of different questions to help you decide whether you want to build, buy, or partner. Let's say what stage your company or your team is at currently, right? Is it an early product market fit stage, or is it in the growth stage, or a maturity stage? What is the end outcome you want to achieve out of the need that you've identified? What is the long-term vision and the short-term goals? Do you just want to go to market very quickly, or do you have a long-term vision of building a category or building a business out of that opportunity? Is there an urgency for time to market to, let's say, ride the industry trend or direction? For example, if right now we have a lot of momentum on GPT models and chat experiences. So do you want to go to market very quickly? And that's why you would potentially want to partner with somebody very quickly. Or if you think there is a long-term opportunity, you want to build the expertise yourself and create that expertise, build something from scratch yourself within the company. And also, it also depends on the budget and the resourcing needed to fund that particular decision, right? So all of these questions, or all of these things that you would want to think about when you're deciding whether to build, buy, or partner. The second one is identifying synergies, or identifying long-term synergies and scalability of the potential partnership, right? So similar to how you're building, similar to when you build a new product from scratch, you will also need to do market assessment, user job and pain point identification of the quote-unquote partnership you're trying to craft up. So questions such as, what are the success metrics each entity in your partnership would want to move the needle on? That is, what is in it for me versus what is in it for them? Like, what are they, what do they want to achieve versus what do I want to achieve, right? So is there any synergy along those lines? What are your and your partner's long-term goals, right? Do your partner's goals align with yours, or at the very least, they are in sync with yours? You might decide if it's a long-term partnership or a short-term relationship of some sort. If it's short-term, it's fine. You can partner in a one-off instance and move on. But if it's a long-term partnership you're looking for, then you definitely want to understand the priorities of your partners. Then what is the total addressable market that your partnership wants to or can potentially jointly conquer, right? So what is that TAM that you're looking for? Is the current TAM scalable in the long term? So, for example, are the evolving user behaviors, user expectations, and industry market trends favoring the partnership in the long haul? What do your partners care about the most, right? What is their way of working and engagement? This might help you understand how you set common goals with each other, how aggressive your goals can be, and also the level of risk or the level of volatility your partners are willing to accept. And then the third step is forecasting the ROI of the partnership. So all of this, just to take us back one step and then look at this at a holistic level, you're still trying to understand if partnership is the right way to go, right? The first one is obviously you are tentatively deciding whether you want to, let's say, build, buy, or partner. If you do decide to partner with a potential partner, then you will talk about, or you will want to understand synergies. Then you will want to understand the financial ROI. Then you will want to do some technical assessment, which is what all these steps are all about. So we are still at the very initial stage of understanding if partnership is the right approach for you, as well as if that particular partner is the right partner for you, for you to take on that relationship. So the third step, as I was talking about, is forecasting the LTV or the long-term value or the ROI of the partnership. So if you have a potential partner that fits your bill and fits the your long-term, near-term goals, they have synergies with your ecosystem, with your product, and more importantly, you see a healthy future together, you can start drafting out some multi-year financial projection models that can help you forecast the financial ROI of this potential partnership. So the end goal would be to identify the financial synergies that come along with the market synergies that you have put down on paper. So on paper, everything looks fine. There is a product market, there is a potential product market fit that you can see. There are different assumptions and hypotheses that you're making on paper, right? So there are market synergies that you have seen on paper, but what about the financial synergies? So in that case, you want to identify the financial synergies by, let's say, creating a financial forecast. And if the worst and the best case scenario for the financial model is something that you can work with, then you can definitely move ahead with move the conversation ahead. The last step in this is technical analysis and validation to understand the feasibility of the product integration or new product development in the first place. So as the business teams are focused on vetting the business proposal, right? And when I say business teams, it's product teams, marketing teams, finance, legal. So they are focused on vetting the business proposal. The engineering team can practically validate some of the initial hypotheses that you have about the partnership. They can identify the technical costs involved, the technical dependencies that your product management or your business teams might not have thought about. And usually in software products, technical feasibility analysis is a mandatory check during the initial stage of the partnership discussions, and it would serve you well to bring your engineering partners, engineering leads along with you in the first instance itself when you're talking about these, when you're having these discussions with your partner. So there are ways to develop a proof of concept or POC in a shared testing environment during the initial phase, and then testing the POC out with a certain user group as well to validate the solution within a short period of time. So I would say technical feasibility and validation vetting would be a very critical step of ideation at this particular stage, and it will help you decide whether you want to go ahead or not go ahead with the potential partner, right? So it's a lot to take in, and that's why a lot of partnerships, especially when you are partnering up with an external partner, it takes a lot of time to go ahead to commit to that partner, because there's a business proposal, there is a market assessment, but then there's also the financial assessment, then there is a technical assessment that needs to be done, and then obviously then you're negotiating terms and conditions, right, which we will get to in the next stage. So the next stage, once you know that, hey, I have a potential partner that I want to partner up with, and their goals align with ours, or that at least tentatively they align with ours, the POC, the technical validation that you have tried to do to validate your hypotheses has gone relatively okay or relatively well. And now you want to literally put pen onto paper and then and start the discussion discussion about common goals and timelines, etc. Right, all the good stuff, all the meaty stuff. So I call this the designing the operating model, right? And again, I've broken this down into a number of steps. So the first one is creating a common vision. So at a high level what you're trying to get out of the partnership, or where this partnership is heading towards, because you had your initial set of hypotheses in your mind. But what is that common vision that you and your partner would be working towards, right? So in this case, you can start articulating that common vision onto an agreement, onto paper, right? And also you would want to understand what your partner cares about, what do you care about, and since there are these common synergies for both of you to tap into, let's create a common vision for us to focus on to. This also creating a common vision also helps to also helps when the partnership is not going in the right direction in the future, right? So if there's any dilemma in the future, or you've reached a stalemate on any of the decisions you're trying to make, or when your partners are or both of you are trying to solve a particular challenging pain point, having that common vision can help you go back to the basics and work together with each other in order to solve those problems. So that vision, as with any product development process, would be very important even for a partnership discussion. Second one is aligning on goals or shared goals, right? Shared goals will be short-term goals as well as long-term goals. So you're going one level deeper and you're crafting out shared, actionable, measurable goals that can help both the partners track near, long-term, medium-term success, as well as understand the health of the partnership on a regular basis, right? So those shared goals are very important because you're articulating them on paper. You have broken them down into crawl, walk, run, basically, sort of a step-by-step approach, medium, long-term, short-term approach. And you know that these are the goals that you will be working towards, and this is how you will be measuring success when the partnership does start gaining momentum. And then contractual terms, right? You would need to have a formal agreement in place that will go back and forth between your lawyers and theirs, with checks and balances applied by risk compliance, privacy partners, along with business planning, marketing, product management teams. So this, for example, you would want to talk about, would this be a multi-year deal or a multi-year deal with deliverables across many years, across deliverables every year, or would this be a one-time deal with an option to extend depending on the success of that one-time partnership engagement? Is there any back out option that will enable either of the partners to back out of the partnership given certain conditions are met? So these contractual terms and agreements usually get into the picture when you're talking with an external partner. If it's an internal partner, usually shared goals are more than sufficient. But when budgeting or when finance gets involved, then obviously you need to have a contractual agreement with all these different terms and conditions in place. And then you have rev share. So agreeing on a rev share model also. So even if it's a internal team that you're partnering up with, usually there is some kind of a rev share agreement or some kind of a business metric that you're tracking, because at the base of any partnership is a very fundamental token, right? Which is either revenue or some other metric to that effect. Let's say MAU or DAO, number of users that you want to acquire, or any market that you want to conquer, right? So if one party is sending their users towards another partner and the other partner is benefiting out of it financially or monetarily, then maybe a rev share agreement can be drawn. So this also depends, or this agreement can be a part of the contractual terms, or it can be a separate sort of agreement, depending on how you are, which company you're dealing with, or if you're dealing with somebody internally or externally. And then you have the last step is just before executing on the partnership, you want to align on implementation plan or the logistics of the partnership, right? So you can start drafting an incubation working plan for the partnership as more Legos fall into place. So more like a project plan. This will detail out how both the partners will start working with each other, at least for the first phase of the partnership. And then this implementation plan will keep on evolving as you work with them continuously. And then the third step is basically, as with any other product development process, it's incubating or execution or implementing the partnership, which is usually done on the terms that you have defined or you have agreed upon previously in the previous step, right? So again, here you will see steps such as stakeholder involvement and alignment, right? Whether it's your engineering team, marketing team, product team, risk compliance, design team, whichever team would be a part of that V team or V group, all of them are, you need alignment with all of them. You're bringing different stakeholders together. You're trying to create that squad basically, and also you're trying to set up the communication cadence. How frequently will you meet? How will you communicate? Who needs to be involved in the day-to-day decisions, whether who needs to come in only infrequently, right? You're getting ready for the first project or milestone. This might involve writing product specs, creating a sprint plan, smoothing out any architectural challenges, setting up a good communications rhythm with your partners, and then having goals. Again, as I said, you have the shared goals that you define in the previous step or the previous stage, but now here you're defining project goals for that particular project that you're working on with your partners, right? Here you're going one level deeper. You're putting them into action. You might have monthly targets, or let's say quarterly targets that you want to achieve out of this one milestone. Basically, you're setting the baseline for success, as well as the target that you want to achieve. And then frequent alignment on the goals and vision through quarterly, monthly business readouts, alignment sessions. So now these quarterly, monthly syncs between your teams, between your partners' teams and yours are very, very critical, because they act as a sense check or a sanity check as to whether you're on track with your engagement. You want to socialize any small wins you've had. You want to list out any or call out any blockers that you're facing, any challenges that you're facing in the partnership, right? So you get the right support at the right time from your leadership or from your stakeholders, from your partners. And then you're also socializing progress with your leadership in both the companies, either through newsletters or business updates. So even when the project is ongoing, you might want to socialize any progress, any upcoming risks, dependencies, market trends, opportunities with your leadership, because they want to understand what's happening at a high level and also what's going on at the field, so that they can engage their own leaders in the partner and have those alignment conversations early on, rather than keep them to the last minute. And then the last one is, or maybe I should say second last, is rolling out the project, measuring success. Again, you need to measure success frequently, as with any other product development process, because each partner, in this case, because you're working with an external company, let's say, and even within an organization with an internal team, every team will measure success differently, right? Especially if they are two separate companies, they will definitely be measuring success differently. What they would care about and how they care about it is going to be different than how you think they care about the success. So you need to, first of all, as I was saying a couple of steps before this, you want to create that baseline success or the baseline of what success means to both of you. But then once you're rolling out the project, you will be starting to measure success frequently through these joint goals that you've created, or the joint OKRs you've created. Right. And even then you will have your internal, how you measure success internally versus how you measure success with your partner. Right. And ideally you would find alignment with how your partner measures success, how the partnership is measuring success, and how you are measuring success internally. For example, internally you might care about MAU as a metric or as an OKR. The partnership shared goal might be tracking number of unique users, let's say, and maybe your partner internally to their company, they're tracking let's say paid acquisitions, right? Like any combination of these terms. So ideally they should be all of them should be aligned. If not, you need to have conversations on how you can align them, or at least as long as your partner understands what you are trying to do, that's maybe good enough as well. But anyway, at the end of the day, you're measuring success constantly in order to cater to that target that you've set in the shared goals. And then the last step is reforecast or redefine your shared goals for the next semester or for the next phase of the partnership. So once you start measuring success, you will also want to assess whether the current shared goals are worth your while, whether they need to be tweaked upon, or whether you want to reforecast them for the next semester based on the success that you've seen, right? whatever success you've seen, is it on target? Is it falling behind? Is it has it exceeded expectations? Maybe you will need to craft a strategy to if they are below expectations, maybe you will have to do something about it. You will either reforecast the goals, or maybe potentially even have a different shared goal to track success. The next step is, and basically this is the last step, it's identifying the next new bets, reassessing and enhancing the working model with your partner. So in this phase, you will go through steps such as looking for the next opportunity, how to take the partnership to the next level, creating win-win solutions, right? Finding the love language, quote unquote, love language with your partner. What do my partners care about? What do I care about? How can we make them successful and remove any blockers for them so that they can make us successful in return, right? So understanding your partner's deep organizational needs and your strengths that you can add to the table, bring to the table in order to make the partnership a win-win for both of you. So this creating win-win solutions, obviously it's a different topic altogether for partnerships, because you will, as with any partnership, whether it's internal, external, you will find a lot of challenges, whether they are alignment challenges, communication challenges, success metrics challenges. But at the end of the day, you want to create a win-win strategy for both of you, and you want to find creative solutions to overcome any and many of these challenges as well. And then reframing shared goals. This is one of the learnings I've had in the past, where you can have different goals. You can have, as I was saying, there are 3 different kinds of goals which might be happening at the same time. You will have your own internal goals, you will have the partnership shared goals, and your partner will have their own internal goals as well. But if you reframe the shared goals in a way that your partner cares about, or your partner perceives them differently, then maybe you are you are in the right direction to find alignment with your partners, right? So how can you frame your end goals with respect to what your partner cares about in a way? And then creating a sustainable relationship, diving deeper into identifying what value each of you are bringing to the table. How can you create better processes and communication cadences, let's say, to move together in a synergistic way? Smoothing out any alignment communication challenges if you do believe in the long-term value of the partnership. And if you think your partnership is valuable, you might want to find ways to understand deeper needs of your partner, find strategies to work together, so on and so forth. So all of these are almost the last step or last stage, I should say, after you have gone through a few cycles of delivering some milestones with your partner at a very high level. In this stage, you're taking the partnership to the next level by either identify new opportunities to bring to the table and working on those opportunities with your partner, or enhancing the working model of your partnership with them. So some of the partnership lessons that I have learned in my product career, one is short-term pain for long-term gain or long-term ROI. Most of the times there would be short-term pain, but that would ideally compensate for long-term value. You might not see the immediate ROI of your partnership in the short term. You would have a lot of challenges. You might want to accept the short-term investment, even so that you can have a much longer or a long-term ROI in your favor. And many a times product teams forget this while chasing their semester level or annual OKRs, right? You have this, or we have this narrow outlook on our product goals or organizational goals for this quarter, for the semester. But ideally, if you invest for the long haul, you need to accept that short-term risk or the short-term pain. Escalations do not build trust. So escalations usually do not do the trick of strengthening your partnership. So avoid that in most circumstances. Instead, focus on building trust with your partners. But as I was saying, understand what they care about, understand how you can reframe your goals in a language that they understand, understand what value they bring to the table and what strengths you're bringing to the table as well, so that you can take the right sort of strengths and build on top of that with each other. In this way, you're tying your objectives with their motivations and eventually building a strong foundation for your partnership as well. And then partners communicate, consume information differently. Some of them are visual thinkers, some of them prefer documents and write-ups, some of them love brainstorming sessions. So once you understand the way they communicate, consume information, you can better position your dialogue with them. And then get written sign-offs and commitment from your partners. I've learned this is very critical because if there are verbal agreements, verbal commitments, they might get lost in translation, and then there's a chance of a lot of misalignment, and then you're going back and forth with your partners about things that you have verbally agreed upon but they haven't delivered, right? So having something on paper, having written sign-offs and commitment will get you the accountability, the ownership from your partners instead of playing pass the buck at some point due to misalignment of priorities. And speaking of priorities, deeply understand your partner's priorities before you engage them for the long haul, because then you can identify the gaps that you have before you engage them on long-term projects. And if those gaps are something that you don't want to work on, or if they are too much work for the amount of let's say, return that you're expecting or you're getting in return, I think it doesn't make sense to continue with the partnership, right? So understand your partner's priorities before you commit for the long haul. And the last one is, do not be afraid to reassess your partnership frequently and push back when something is not making sense, because otherwise you will be spending precious time trying to get something to work when there might not be any future to the engagement. So reassess a partnership frequently in order to understand if this is something that you want to do, or this is the right partner to partner up with for the long haul. If it doesn't make sense, it's okay to push back and let's say maybe even back out of that agreement or that contract. So this is about a very short talk about partnerships and I hope product partnerships more like, and I hope some of these insights have been helpful and you can apply them in your own conversations with your partners, whether they are internal to you, external to you, and open to any questions if we can get to them.
Okay, Swapna, do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. This mic sometimes cuts out. So thank you for such an informative presentation. I'm aware of partnerships happening all the time from, just being in tech organizations and tech news, but I never thought of the complexity of the process. So I'm struck by the number of steps and the intricacies of the assessments that you need to make. What is there a typical cycle time for a partnership from investigation to execution?
Yeah, I think it depends on who you're partnering up with, right? So if it's, let's say right now I'm partnering up with our internal product teams, the typical cycle time from, let's say, ideation and finding that alignment to execution might be a month, maybe a month and a half, because as I was saying, there might not be any contractual agreements that we have to write down formally on paper when it's an internal team. You're
internal, yeah.
It's another team in the same organization. Maybe you will have conversations about top level alignment, but usually those alignment conversations might take a month and a half, depending on how complex that product or that engagement you want to have with your partner. But if it's an external organization, like for example, how OneDrive and Samsung are collaborating today in Microsoft, I think those conversations take a lot of time, and the cycle time might be 5 months to, let's say, 1 year as well, depending on what you want to achieve out of it, right? And that's why there are so many complexities to it. It's not just, I think once you get into the nitty-gritties, you're definitely trying to solve challenges such as deliverables and milestones and communication challenges with your partner. But before that, there are so many things that you want to understand, as I was saying, like the financial synergies. does the ROI even make sense in the long haul? Does the technical sort of the assessment make sense? Like, is it feasible from a technology standpoint? So I think a lot of work has to be done initially before the partnership can get onto the execution phase, especially with an external company or external vendor. So yeah, I think it depends on whether you are partnering up with an internal team or an external organization. If it's an external organization, those partnership discussions can take anywhere from, let's say, even 2 months to maybe even a year, depending on how complex the engagement is.
Yes, I'm not surprised. And Victor asks, I think, a good follow-up. Can you share more about how approaches might differ between the internal and versus external partnerships?
Yeah, and when you ask about approaches, there are so many layers to it, right? You can so with internal partnerships, ideally you have a you have a line of sight into what your organization's priorities are, right? So especially if you belong to the same internal line of business organization in your wider company, you know what are the OKRs that both your teams are falling under. So you have that line of sight. You know what that VP or that executive wants to drive for their own product, and then you can align your objectives based on the OKR that they are trying to drive. But when you're partnering up with an external company, in the initial stages, you don't know what they want out of the partnership. They might say that they are very excited to work with us, but what do they really want? Do they want to expand, let's say, their expertise in a particular technology, or if they want to expand their geographical market, target market, or if they want to sort of acquire new users to their product, right? So I think understanding their deeper motivations takes a lot of time. And even after, let's say, 2 years, after you've delivered a lot of things with your partner, you might not really know what their priorities are for the long term. So I think that is one thing that might differ between internal and external, because with an external partner, you will spend a lot of time just identifying their true motivations and their true what do they really want out of the partnership, the deeper goals. And that's when a lot of negotiation and a lot of you need to have that sort of influencing capability, or a lot of sort of negotiating skill in order to really understand what your partner is driving towards. And what else? So how approaches may differ. And in terms of approach, I think with both the internal as well as external, you want to understand, you want to really make your partner successful, right? So I think that will not change whether it's internal or external. You really want to make your partner successful by unblocking them. So if you are, let's say, facing a challenge in your engagement, instead of thinking about it that, hey, this is what I want and this is how we want to achieve it, maybe think about it in a way from the point of view of your partner, right? Like, what do they want to achieve? What do they care about? And how can we unblock them to make them successful so that our partnership becomes successful? So that is, I think, that mindset change in the way you communicate with them needs to happen, because otherwise it will be me, I, this is what we want, right? I think it needs to change to, hey, what do you want and how can we unblock you to make you successful? I hope that makes sense.
Okay, wonderful. Swapna, let's see. How about, I think a lot of your process is motivated by risk mitigation. It's also motivated by the desire to optimize your chances for success. But I would think that especially with external partners, there's a substantial amount of risk, and that risk would probably include compliance risk, legal compliance, and trade compliance. Who would oversee that in the partnership process?
who would oversee that in the partnership process. So again, it depends on the company. So, or from if it's a large corporate or if it's a startup, ideally there are risk compliance partners who get involved from the start of the negotiations, right? So the let's say the product team and the risk compliance privacy partners will work together from both the companies, or let's say from both the partner entities, to make sure that all the risks are identified, they have been written down, and there's a risk mitigation plan in place to make sure any of these anomalies do not happen or do not take place. If you're asking about who will be involved, it will be the risk compliance privacy partners along with the product team, who might have a better, or who will have a better understanding of the product, obviously, right? So they need to work together in order to identify at a very early stage all the risks that might happen or might be a part of this ecosystem, and then the product team, business teams will work together to create a risk mitigation plan, basically, in order to.
Okay, very good, and good point that the risks will vary substantially depending on whether the partner target is a startup or an established company. So, and I'm thinking that there's an array of risks, but certainly with legal risks for a company of Microsoft's size, and that you have to stay in compliance with U.S. and international law, but there are teams that Microsoft has who specialize in that.
Yeah, and then obviously there are data guardrails, there are privacy guardrails, compliance guardrails that internal teams also have to follow. So those guardrails become even more stringent when external parties get involved, right? And again, depends on which geography you're operating in. If it's only US, or if it's Asia, then there are a whole lot of other processes that get triggered. If it's Europe, obviously GDPR and I'm assuming there are other compliance processes in there as well. So it depends on the geographical location, depends on whether you are partnering up with an internal team, which might have already gone through a few assessments of their own, as well as if it's an external company, then you need to introduce them to your organizational standards of risk, privacy, compliance.
Okay, very good. And I think you spoke about culture fit, maybe not using that label, but you certainly spoke about aspects of culture fit, like assessing communication styles, assessing how the partner target consumes info. I think even variations in the OKRs between organizations are reflective of the organization's culture. Is there a particular time in the process where you're looking at the culture fit?
So, like if there's a very good, let's say, partner market fit, I'm not saying product market, but a partner product market fit, let's say, then obviously, irrespective of the organizational culture of your partner, you are going to go ahead. If the financial synergies are making sense, if the ROI is making sense, you will go ahead. But at any point in the process, you will come across challenges, whether they're communication challenges, whether they are how your partners communicate or how your partners set targets, etc. I think those challenges can crop up. Initially, you will hopefully identify them initially, but even if you identify them later in the process, you will need to tweak your strategy based on that, right? So I've had experiences where the partner is setting, so we have been setting aggressive targets versus the partner doesn't want to set aggressive targets. So how do you navigate that conversation? Similarly, when I was talking about different OKRs or different goals, in my scenario, we were talking about MAU, monthly active users. In their internal the internal goal was to drive unique user acquiring sort of unique users into their product. So I think in that case, you need to, as I was saying, reframe the goal and say, hey, we are tracking MAU, but that will help you acquire new users. So something along those lines, and then you can modify the shared goal accordingly as well. So yeah, I think I don't know if I answered your question, but
no, you answered it very well. And the idea that culture mismatches do not mean that the partnership is not a viable partnership. If the product you use the business terms better than I do, but if the business case is there for the partnership, you may need to adjust your strategies for communicating and dealing with a partner, but the business case is driving the partnership.
Yeah.
So on that note, we are at time. So Swapna, I'm really, really grateful for your presentation. I thought it was wonderful, very informative and insightful. A shout out to our attendees as well. And in 15 minutes, we'll begin the last session of Convey UX 2023. Thanks again, Swapna. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alan. Thank you all. Bye-bye.